Hi, my name is Trey, and that's my friend Mo.
Today we'll be talking about prison reform, its place in history, and its effect on society. So first, let's do an overview about the topics we'll be talking about for the next couple of minutes.
First of all, most of this video will be focused on prison reform, and as an example, we will use the famous once-known prison, Eastern State Penitentiary. We will analyze the time period before the prison reform movement, and talk about events that led up to the decision concerning prison reform.
Then we will talk about the actual movement, which includes what happened during the movement, who supported it, and the final decisions that was made. To end our presentation, we will give you examples of the present effect prison reform left, and after we've covered all of this, we will ask you, our audience, a question for you to think over and discuss after the end of the video.
Okay, so even though we plotted out the video, we wanted to start it off with a simple definition of prison reform. Prison reform is the attempt to improve conditions inside of prisons.
This was all because of the conditions inside the prisons in the late 1700s to the early 1800s were not the living conditions that were ideal for human beings. Men and women shared the same spaces in the holding cells. Physical punishment was common, and abuse of power by the guards was just as common. So after these events occurred, people decided that something needed to be done. A group of well-known, respected, powerful figureheads met in the home of Benjamin Franklin in 1787 to discuss prison reform. They wanted to create a true penitentiary that would really punish the prisoner, but be done by not beating them or allowing them to live in terrible living conditions. Instead, a real genuine feeling of regret in their own heart and mind.
The idea grew from thinking with the point of view of a prisoner. They thought, who would want to live in terrible conditions and be beaten when they could really think about what they had done? They believed that was punishment enough, to be trapped with the thought of what they did from when they got into the prison until their death.
Some of the decisions made to better the penal system was the separation of genders and certain age groups. Now women were kept in different cells, then it gradually changed to single-sex jails and prisons. As for children who participated in criminal acts, they were kept as prisoners in a completely different prison.
A place where all of this happened was the very well-known Eastern State Penitentiary. The prison/penitentiary was constructed in 1821 and was finished and opened in 1829. It was closed down in 1971 and was bought by the city of Philadelphia in 1980. In 2001, the prison became a historical site, and today it is a haunted attraction during the month of October. But that's not the point. At the time, Eastern State Penitentiary was a brilliant idea. It eliminated the overcrowded jails and allowed each prisoner inside to spend their sentence with only themselves. Prisoners barely encountered each other, forcing them to have time to think about their criminal action and be reformed as a person. However, this whole idea of prisoners being off to themselves failed miserably during one of the most monumental events that took place before the prison reform movement. This event was the disaster of Auburn in 1821. After being locked up in solitary confinement and then neglected, around 80 prisoners either committed suicide or went mentally insane from the lack of human interaction. Perhaps it was the overwhelming voices in their heads.